Whether I earned your vote or not, I have listened to you. I have learned from you. And you've made me a better president. And with your stories and your struggles, I return to the White House more determined and more inspired than ever about the work there is to do and the future that lies ahead.
Again, note the tone from the president, a speech Chuck Todd suggested would have been better delivered in part at the convention than the one the president chose to give at the convention, which, looking back on it, was an event mostly dominated by the speech given by former President Bill Clinton. But here we are on election night, actually the day after election night, 2:12 a.m. on the East Coast. Tom Brokaw, now that we're into the shank of the evening, or perhaps even the ankle, probably a good time to hear from you on what you've witnessed tonight and the path forward.
Well, so I can wrap up here and then I can ankle the studio, I think is what you're trying to get at. When I was listening to the president, I had a couple of thoughts. The first is, practically speaking, for him to say that you made me a better president tonight. I think a lot of people who are very close to him, who admire him a great deal, think if he was as good at the politicking that is often required of a president as he is at campaigning, he probably would have been in better shape in the fourth year of his first term, and there may be a lesson for him in all that and how he reaches out to people. I was thinking, for example, what if he did a preemptive strike and picked up the phone and called Jeb Bush and says, I need you to join me in a summit on immigration, for example, and reaching across party lines to bring in people instantly into his circle. Mitch McConnell's statement tonight, I suspect, is not going to hold up very well. He says the president even admitted that he failed to do what he set out to do in his first term. He's got a second chance now. Well, a lot of people would say that the Republicans in the House also failed what they were sent there to do. And finally, Brian, what is so striking about this, whatever your politics, this is a great American story that's part of the long narrative of our history, that this man, Barack Obama, a Kenyan father, a single white mother after the Kenyan father deserted her, who raised him in Indonesia and Hawaii. He was effectively raised by his grandparents for a good part of his life, went to school in California, then to Columbia, then to Harvard, community organizer in Chicago, kind of backed into politics there by running for the state Senate. And then, as his friends laughingly say, the luckiest guy they know, he found a way to the United States Senate, to the first term as President of the United States, and tonight he stood there reelected after 4 of the most difficult years the American economy has ever been through, because there is a kind of an affection for his values and who he is on the part of a lot of people. And his campaign is about the campaign of the inclusion. And the Republicans, it seems to me, made a fatal error with the campaign of exclusion. Everything from the 47% statement that Governor Romney made when he released his 2 years of tax returns, people who were working class found out that he'd paid less than they had, and especially women and other interest groups, as we know, didn't ever feel the warm embrace of that party in this election. And so Barack Obama, the most unlikely candidate not that many years ago, now has a second term in a permanent place in American history that has been burnished even beyond his first election. It's really a remarkable night, and this narrative is not yet over.
Tom, I think you're right. I don't think there's been a more remarkable campaigner than FDR, who had to do so without the benefit of, without the use of his legs. It's really been an incredible journey for a guy who, with the middle name Hussein, to achieve this office, given all the political backdrop post 9/11 and the modern era, and then to do it again in the grips of a recession.
You know, there are going to be so many Republicans and so many prominent business leaders, frankly, who were utterly opposed to the idea that he would get a second term and thought that they had him in their political crosshairs, and I use that metaphorically, just a year ago at this time. In fact, there was some discussion at conferences around the country that he would have to go to Hillary Clinton as his vice presidential running mate to beef up his own resume. And tonight, they must be stunned by the scope of his electoral victory here and how extraordinarily well it was run. Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE, has been openly critical of the Obama administration, and especially critical of that job report that dropped sharply. Tonight had a tweet that congratulated President Obama. And what we've got going on here, I'm happy to report, is just an electrical outage of some kind.
Okay, as long as it isn't Jack Welch.
No, it's not. He confines it to his tweets, so far as I know. I don't think he's got the key to the building anymore, by the way, so that's probably not the case. Okay. Anyhow, we'll hear from him about all of this. Anyhow, he congratulated the president tonight.
After accusing him of cooking the books on the job figures. Right. All right, well.